In the words of the iconic Brent Musburger, you are looking live at Stadium Swim in downtown Las Vegas. We are last men standing, and we're here to preview week 2 of the NFL season. We're going to do a little recap of week 1. Even though there wasn't a lot of carnage, there was a lot of sweat in week 1 of the NFL season. So I'm here with my co-host, Jason Anik. He's here. We're going to be talking all about the NFL season, and we can't wait. If you haven't noticed, as I said, we're at Stadium in the belly of the beast here at Circa. And I don't know about you, Jason, but this show already gets me excited and gets me amped up. But being here, the vibes, you guys can hear the music in the background, beautiful people walking by. This gets me a little more excited to talk NFL football.
Oh, I'm all fired up. I'm not a big drinker, but I feel like day drinking. I'm so fired up, right? As we come at you, 10:45 Pacific. Tony's 2 feet away from me. We gave you that shot of Circa Stadium Swim. I mean, give me all of this. I'm so fired up for today. Fired up to talk about Survivor. Fired up to talk about the NFL. I will say we're in Las Vegas right now. My brother John Anik's out here for Canelo Crawford. And as I'm leaving the room, as he's getting ready to go do fighter meetings with the boxers, he's like, have fun talking about the NFL. Yup, that's what we're doing, Tone.
Love it. We got comments rolling in already. Someone saying, I played Colts in week 1 Survivor. Easy win, Londo. Nice work. You were one of the few people that had no sweat. The Dolphins, we knew right away in that game after kickoff, they weren't coming back in that game. Here is a little recap here of the week 1 results. As I said at the top, not a lot of carnage here. The top, 7 teams all got by. The biggest disappointment, Jason, was your New England Patriots. And by the way, there was somebody out there who had all 10 entries on the New England Patriots.
Oh, my God. Did that person not watch the Patriots play football last season? I mean, that's insane. But the fact that the biggest carnage is 269 entries on the New England Patriots, it's just unbelievable. I tweeted out about this. Tony, I feel like it should have been a bloodbath. I don't even know where to begin. You start Thursday night with the Eagles raising the banner. I mean, the way that game started, obviously with Jalen Carter, but the Cowboys certainly had opportunities to win that game. But I feel like a lot more people should have been eliminated, just like week 1 last year, you know?
That's fair. I mean, there's 2 ways to look at it. Like, by the way, I had 3 entries on the Eagles in that game, and 6 effing seconds in, you get Jalen Carter, arguably, if not the Eagles' best player, probably their most important defensive player, out of the game. 15-yard penalty, and then an Eagles special teams player has a pretty serious injury as well. You're 6 seconds in, you're shell-shocked, and you're like, okay, the NFL season's here. This is great, but this isn't how I wanted to start it out. You get a little nervous, and then there's this weather delay. Landon Dickerson doesn't come back after the weather delay. The Eagles had to overcome a lot, but those dropped passes did the Cowboys in and gave a little favor to those who were on the Eagles on Thursday night.
Tony, I'm such an NFL junkie that I actually liked the weather delay because it extended my football window. Literally, I was like, I'll take this. A little more anticipation, right? I get to watch it. And normally I'm an East Coast guy. I don't want it going late. But the NFL just delivered to such a great extent in week 1. For those of you that don't love this league like Tony and I, what else are you looking for? The Sunday night, Monday night games? I know we're going to talk about everything from a Survivor standpoint, but how about the NFL just overall, Tony? What a weekend.
The comeback there in that Ravens-Bills game, and then again Monday night. I mean, the 2 last primetime games, as you said, not huge Survivor implications, but from a football fan standpoint, absolutely incredible. I mean, where does that Bills-Ravens game rank in terms of all-time regular season games? I mean, that was one of the better games that you can see as a football fan. It was incredible.
So you saw the comment there from our guy House. Apparently Benson said only 5 rebuys. So Tony, after the Thursday or Friday night game, those in Vegas could have rebought in only 5. Does that surprise you?
Doesn't surprise me because of the outcome. Like if the Chargers had lost, I think maybe you would have had a few more rebuys. You know what I mean? In that situation there. The Chargers move, by the way, let's give some folks the credit that had the guts, the balls to take the Chargers as a dog on Thursday night. I would argue if you're power ranking the entries, anybody who got by with the Chargers are right at the top.
Yeah, well, and you absolutely, I was surprised that you didn't have any entries on the Chargers, but that surprised me because you were bullish on the Chargers. I'm sure your bank account reflected that, even though your Survivor entry maybe didn't.
Yeah, I had the Chargers plus 3.5, got a good number on that. And I was very close to taking the Chargers in Survivor. Last minute, decided not to. And obviously, I'm wishing I had because, like I said, those people who took the Chargers are sitting in a really nice spot headed into week 2, for sure.
So our producer, Mike Jones, isn't going to like what I'm going to do right now. But, dude, we're here at Stadium Swim, just so y'all know. I know the lighting isn't great, but I'm right here with my guy, Tony. I'm just jumping out of my skin. I'm so excited. All right, so the week 1 recap, right? So many different things we could get to. Let's hold off talking about the Philly game. We'll get to that when we talk about the joint entry, right? But the biggest carnage was the Patriots. We talked about that. But the Broncos, right? 71, 73, 7,000 entries on the Broncos. That gets through. Anything
barely, Jason.
Right.
Barely. I mean, we can't just gloss over that, right? That was a little bit of a sweat for the Broncos. We all said it all week. Cam Ward, rookie quarterback, tough situation. And the Broncos defense kept him in check. But the Broncos offense, Jason's over here, so you might catch me over here a few times. Bo Nix looks terrible. I retweeted out in the offseason, I forget who it was, someone who was familiar with the Broncos organization who had gone to training camp made the comment and said, Jarrett Stidham actually looks better than Bo Nix in training camp. And I thought it was kind of a crazy statement. I retweeted it on our account on X. After watching that game, I don't want to overreact to week 1, but I think it's at least fair to have some questions about Bo Nix. All off season long, it was, is Jaden Daniels going to regress like CJ Stroud did? Maybe we might want to have a conversation about Bo Nix at this point.
It's so interesting. And week 1 is obviously such a small sample size, right? Jarrett Stidham has had a unique career, obviously backing up Tom Brady, right? Weren't a lot of opportunities to see the field back then. It's had sort of an interesting career, but I like his game overall, but I just haven't seen much. I still think Bo Nix is the guy. And, we could talk about the 6 quarterbacks drafted last year. I talked a lot about this earlier in the week. Bo Nix, to me, still has that moxie, still has that leadership ability, that juice. And to not lose a game but not play well is a blessing, I think. They had a bad start last season, so to get a win, I may have a little consideration for them. I like them quite a bit this week as we move forward. So any other – Mike, if you don't mind, put that Survivor graphic back up there one more time, because if we just look at these top 5 games, and I could talk about the Bengals for days. Broncos had to sweat it. Cardinals had to sweat it a little bit, Tone, right?
Yep.
You had some entries on the Cardinals, if you don't mind me saying, right?
Cardinals were my most selected team on my Circa Survivor entries, and it was absolutely a sweat. The Saints were a little more competitive than I was expecting. By the way, I wake up. Oh, I got to mention this. I friggin' wake up Sunday morning, as you know, Jason, this is my favorite day of the year. This is Christmas morning for Tony. And I've got several entries on the Arizona Cardinals in Circa Survivor. And the first effing thing I see on my phone when I wake up in the morning is either Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport. Kyler Murray has an illness. And I'm like, oh, great. We later find out it was diarrhea. He was playing with diarrhea. He had to take medication so that he didn't shit his pants during the game. But that's not what you want to see when you have multiple entries on the Arizona Cardinals. So I send a picture to my buddy who I partner with a little bit in Survivor pools and stuff. And I sent him a tweet of Kyler walking out. And Kyler Murray, he looks like a boy. He's short statured guy, His clothes are a little too big for him.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make myself feel better. And I'm like, hey, man, he doesn't look that bad, right? Like, he's fine. The team's probably just like being like overreactive by reporting the fact that he's having an illness.
Right.
And my buddy responds back and says, he looks like a little boy with 103-degree fever. I'm like, oh, you're not making me feel any better. So I was sweating right up till kickoff. And then you saw Kyler look like Kyler, and it felt a little better.
Yeah, well, and in terms of the sweat, right? Philadelphia was a big sweat. I had an entry. I have 4 entries in Survivor, just so you know. And I'll just tell you right out of the gate, I went Cincinnati, which I'm going to talk more about. Don't even get me started. Tony told me not to, and I shouldn't have. It feels like the luckiest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I think Mike Jones will get to some of the Bengals' just colossal things, bad things that they achieved in that game and still came out victorious in our mailbag. But so I had Bengals, Eagles, Broncos, Jaguars as my 4. So I move forward. But that Bengals game, Tony, not to mention how much I trust you, and you tried to get me not to play them. My brother didn't want me to play the Bengals. And it was such a nightmare. I mean, like the missed field goal for the Browns and then just some of the numbers for the Bengals. I mean, it was like I thought for sure I was giving up one entry, but better to be lucky than good. I feel like I got lucky. I feel like I got luckier on the Bengals than I've been. That's about as lucky as I've ever been in my life. And that may propel me. That entry may get propelled by that little lucky break.
Sometimes it works that way. Were there 2 missed kicks by the Browns? Maybe I'm mistaken. I think was there a missed field goal and a missed extra point maybe? I could be mistaken.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even watch. I'm talking about the late field goal that was a chip shot when you knew the Bengals weren't going to score another
point. And then the
interception
to end the game. I mean, that was a great throw by Flacco. That was a great throw. And you never know what's going to happen, right? But everything in my being says if he makes the catch on that drive and it's not an interception, the Browns were going down the field. We've talked about it already in the offseason, how bad the Bengals defense was. That is a dream scenario if you're rooting for the Bengals to lose in that situation. I had 0 entries on the Bengals. That's how it goes in Survivor sometimes. You feel like you make the right move by not taking the Bengals, and people advance with the Bengals. It happens.
It'll be interesting to see how gamblers react next week. I believe they host Jacksonville, right? For me, I got my red goggles from last week. It's like, give me the Jaguars. I won't go near the Bengals. And for those of you that caught some of the earlier shows, I'm on the Bengals 22.5 to 1 to win the Super Bowl because I believe in Joe Burrow. Tony said to me he thinks the Bengals defense might be worse this year. Very well could be the case. And despite having these dudes on the outside at receiver, how good is the Bengals offense? I don't believe in Chase Brown as much as everybody else. So, yeah, I'm not as bullish on the Bengals, but thrilled they got me through.
Absolutely. Hey, this joint entry that we got, Champ. Let's talk about Champ for a second because Champ got through with the Eagles. For those of you who are watching the show for the first time, Jason's got an entry, got through the Survivor Sweat marketplace. Champ, he and I have 50% of this. The rest of it is going to be sold off later in the season. Not quite yet on Survivor Sweat, but assuming it's still live. In a couple weeks, it's going to be sold off. And the whole idea is we want our listeners to hopefully buy a share of that, and then we can all hopefully win together. So I love it. We're not going to tell you. We're going to sort of workshop it out and during this episode who we're going to go with. We'll make a decision at the end of the episode, but wanted to update y'all that it did survive, and we got by with the Eagles in week 1.
Champ survive in advance. And what I want to say to you, right, I like admitting when I was wrong as much as I like when I'm admitting that I was right. But you and my brother John were as bullish on the Eagles as anyone I talked to last week. And every time you heard me, I was like, I don't know, the Cowboys, it feels like something wacky's going to happen. And something wacky happened right out of the gate. I just can't believe that all these teams survived. But I'm thrilled that our entry survived. Given that we're doing a podcast, we're live at Stadium Swim right now. I'm thrilled we didn't get eliminated week 1. I am curious, though, Tony, not having the Eagles available for, is it Christmas Day or Thanksgiving, right, against the Bears? Is that the game?
Yep, Thanksgiving, yep.
So that entry, we're going to have to keep in mind the holidays there. Good stuff, Mike Jones. That the Eagles will not be available to us there. So we'll be looking at some of the other matchups there.
So I would argue there's now a premium on the Kansas City Chiefs. And because the Kansas City Chiefs are also a somewhat viable option for Christmas, Commanders are really important as well. So for that entry, we need to be very careful not to use those two teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. So the $18 million prize pool, I think you would guess maybe 19.2. Either way, it's a huge jump from the previous year. This thing is growing exponentially. So, it didn't get to 20, but still a nice bag, even if you're sharing entries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting. And when you're watching these games on Sunday, I don't know if you're like me, I remind myself of that number. When there's a big last-minute field goal or something going on, I'm like, man, this is exciting. There's $18 million on the line. Of course, I'm not going to win it all, every Sunday, but knowing that is the light at the end of the tunnel, that's the goal, makes it a little exciting for sure.
No question about it. I want to talk to you about Grandissimo a little bit, and I don't know how much we talked about this, right? So for those of you that don't know, it's $100,000 to get in, 69. They got 69 entries. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So winner takes all. Nobody was eliminated, correct?
0. And the Westgate contest as well. Their $5,000 survivor pool, 111 people, I believe, in that. 0 people eliminated from that as well.
And I've been told that this Circa Survivor contest contains some sharps. I feel like a lot of these sharps were more lucky than good last week. I'll be interested to talk to you about week 2 because we've talked a lot about when you analyze this league, right? The momentum of taking a victory or a loss from one week and how it's going to carry over, and sort of trying to see how you think teams will bounce back in a good way or bad way, to me, is a real key to being able to handicap this league. So I think there's some matchups that we're going to talk about. It'll be interesting to see if we're the same side.
Agreed. And real quick, I mean, sports bettors call week 2 of the NFL season overreaction week, because traditionally the more square recreational bettors will overreact, and the sharp bettors will do really well in week 2 because they're a little bit more less susceptible to recency bias, and they understand that they have to rely a little more on their priors, etc. So it's going to be interesting. We need to keep ourselves in check on this show, make sure we're not overreacting to week 1. But here up on the screen, we've got the projections from Survivor Atlas. Go over to survivoratlas.com. They give their suggestions of what they think people are going to be on in week 2 in Circa Survivor. They've got the Ravens 19%, Dallas 18%, Arizona 14%, Minnesota, that's high, man. 13%.
I agree, that's high.
That feels really high. And then even the Rams at 11% feels high. I suspect that Ravens number is going to be over 20%. It is, it's only the second week of the season, but it's the biggest point spread we've seen so far in 2 weeks. I get that it's a divisional matchup. We'll talk about this game later in depth. I think that Ravens number is going to be over 20%. There is a comfort that comes with being a 12-point favorite, or whatever the spread is. I could look out here and see. There's a comfort that comes with that. And early in Survivor, people just want to survive. I think they're going to be attracted to the Ravens. And if you got 10 entries, how do you not put at least 1 or 2 on the Ravens to sort of never guarantee, but increase the chances of you advancing?
Oh, so many reasons that you're not going to wake up Monday morning to an 0-2 Ravens team that looked like the best team in the league despite losing on Sunday night. I agree. Last year, I believe the Ravens lost week 2 to the Raiders at home, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it is funky. Things can be funky, but you can be sure the Ravens, I don't expect to be sweating that much, given how angry they're going to be.
Jason, I wonder how many people have Ravens trauma. We talked so much about it in week 1. Oh, you don't want to put your entry in the Bengals if you lost with the Bengals in week 1 last year. Are there people that have Ravens week 2 trauma from last season that are saying, you know what? They let me down in week 2 against the Raiders. And there's a lot of people, folks. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe someone in the chat can help us out. A lot of people got knocked out on that game. Maybe some people are hesitant to take the Ravens week 2.
And as we sort of jump back a little bit, a couple more things I want to say about week 1. In terms of the Bengals, I did think I was going against the grain a little bit, despite obviously 1,200 people being on them. So maybe that moved me a little bit, that I was trying to zig when others would zag. But the one person's noise that I want to tune in is Tony Farmer, and I didn't. So that was my mistake there. But one thing about the Patriots and the entry that had 10 entries, Christian Gonzalez, who was not available. Tony, I know you know how important that one particular piece is on that side of the football for the Patriots. I'm not suggesting that was the difference in the game, but gosh, that would have given me great pause if I was even considering the Patriots.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and listen to the tape of what exactly I said on our last show. I'm pretty sure I talked about Gonzalez injury, and I probably said something like, if he doesn't play, because remember, I was starting to warm up to the idea of the Patriots. I didn't end up taking them when I named my entries, starting to warm up to it. And ultimately that was a difference maker for me. If I may have been on the Patriots if Gonzalez played, I'll put it that way.
So I'm really interested to talk to you about week 2. And I'm so glad, I wonder if I'd be in the same mood if the Browns had won that football game against the Bengals like they should. And I know we'll get to some of this in the mailbag, but that was torturous for me on Sunday. I just can't say enough to you about how torturous that was, given that you were like, you said to me publicly, like, are you sure you want to do that?
For me, the ending was torturous. Again, it's one of those where you feel like you make the right, you're at a poker table, you feel like you make the right decision and the river gets you and it's a, 4% chance, etc.
Let's look at these. I know we were going to see it in the mailbag. So Bengals second half drives in week 1. I mean, just look what's on your screen. And for those of you listening on audio, right, of the Bengals 6 second half drives, 5 of them were 3 and outs. 1 of them was a field goal. And the craziest stat from the Bengals win in Cleveland, per Keith Jenkins, you can find him on X at Mr. Keith Jenkins, their 141 total yards of offense. This is the Cincinnati Bengals. 95 passing and 46 rushing are their fewest in 107 games under head coach Zach Taylor. That includes the playoffs. When our guy Derbify and Tony Farmer were trying to talk to me about my Bengals bias and talk to me about the matchups, I'm tuning them out like a clown. Anyway, We'll take it. But the stats just, to me, that's why I'm not bullish on this Bengals team moving forward, right? It'd be interesting to see when you use them in Survivor.
Yeah, and I will say this. I don't want to steal thunder from later in the show, but Zach Taylor's struggles aren't just in week 1, by the way. He has week 2 struggles as well. Go look it up. So the Bengals are just slow starting teams. It's not like historically they shit the bed in week 1 and they get magically better in week 2. He is a slow starter. And apparently, Jason, playing these guys in the preseason didn't make the difference.
I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. But that Browns front does hit different. So it'll be interesting to see what Jacksonville has for him. But a lot of good things on tape for Liam Cohen and company to watch as they prepare for the Bengals in week 2.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, really fun one to watch. We have a few more things in the mailbag here. I think we had some questions from folks. Thoughts on Chargers? Thunder Up 15. What's up, Thunder Up 15? Thoughts on Chargers and Circa Survivor this week? That's one of the last games that we're going to talk about today because it's one of the 2 Monday Night Football matchups this week. I'll be short. Yes. I think the Chargers are a viable option. They got some extra rest heading into that game against the Raiders. It's funny. 2 of the biggest upsets of the week, and there weren't many, were the Chargers and the Raiders, and they play each other this week. So short answer, Thunder Up, yes. Not a lot of future value for the Chargers. I think they are very viable this week, and we'll elaborate on that a little later in the show.
Yeah, that's interesting, that game, right? So you have Canelo Crawford in Allegiant Stadium Saturday night the 13th. Quick turn to the football game Monday night. Yeah, it's interesting, right? When I look at that football game, the Chargers -3.5, I believe. And then I also look at the Broncos -1.5 at the Colts, right? You feel like the Colts playing against Miami really played a very sort of inferior team that wasn't ready to compete. I hate to say it about my New England Patriots, but that was a disgusting football game out of them on a number of different levels. So to me, I feel as though maybe the Raiders and the Colts getting a little bit overvalued based on their opponent in week 1. We'll see there. But Tony had a good tweet about the Patriots, Mike Jones, if you had that anywhere near you, just about their abysmal performance. Josh McDaniels had a terrible day. I know we're bouncing around here, Tony, but the play calling was awful, right?
Yeah.
13 straight runs, 46 drop back passes, I believe.
Yeah, no balance whatsoever. I mean, I was sort of watching that game on Sunday in the book, but I wasn't paying that much attention. Then when I looked at the box score later, that's why I put it out there on Twitter. I'm like, what are you doing? A lot of times when you'll see something like that in the box score, it's because you were down by 3 scores and you had to abandon the running game. The Patriots didn't have to abandon the running game. They just decided to against this Raiders team, which I think is actually can be pretty susceptible against the run, especially with Landon Roberts out of their stud linebacker. So fascinating. By the way, do we have the best listeners, Jason?
Dude.
About 10 minutes ago, I say something to the effect of, I don't remember exactly how many people were knocked out on the Ravens game, but it was a lot. And Randy coming through, reminding us 2,304 were eliminated in week 2 on the Ravens last year. 26% of the field. Not many people saw that one coming. They were at home. That was a big one.
Yeah, dude, Randy, appreciate you all. Appreciate all the love following us at Last Men Pod on Instagram and Twitter. You can be sure we'll follow you back. Just so much juice in this community right now talking about this contest. And Tony's going to win it, so I hope that it's on the joint entry with me.
Knock on wood. We got a comment here from
What up, Bob?
What's going on in Miami? We'll talk about that a little later in the show. Jason, I have a 36-1 ticket, I believe, maybe 35-1 on the Dolphins to have the worst record in the NFL. And that was a perfect week 1 start for me for that bet. Really interesting to see if they bounce back or not against the Patriots. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But good question. What is happening in Miami?
Great price, Tony. When did you play that?
Earlier this summer, maybe about 2 months ago-ish.
What's really interesting, right? Mike McDaniel's days certainly could be numbered, especially if the Patriots with that wagon go down and take care of Miami. But if the wheels do fall off there, Tony, and Tua is not walking through that door, you could be sure
you know who the backup is? Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is the back, and I had that in mind when I made that bet. I'm like, bad offensive line, quarterback with concussion problems. In comes Zach Wilson for 13 starts this year. I could just see that scenario happening. Team gives up Mike McDaniel, et cetera. Yeah, Miami is a train wreck right now.
And one more thing I'll say, Bob, about Miami, right? I live down in South Florida, and I talk to all these Dolphins fans all the time, and I say to them, I'm rooting. If I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm rooting to go to the basement and not live in this mediocre world that doesn't work in the NFL. You got to bottom out and come back up. I thought the Patriots bottomed out, my team, and we're going to come back up. I guess they're still at the bottom, but the mediocrity is a dangerous place for the Dolphins because 1972, long time ago.
Absolutely. You think we should jump into these week 2 games now?
Yes.
You ready to roll?
Yes.
Let's go. This is what a lot of people tuned in for. We can start with the Thursday night game, Washington, Green Bay. Survivor pool aside for a second, I do like that Washington plus 3.5 number. I love getting the hook here in this spot. I don't know about you, Jason. I have absolutely zero interest in either of these teams for Circa Survivor purposes. 1, because it's an evenly matched game. 2, because these teams have a ton of future value, the Commanders, on Christmas. So no interest there. I will say this. If you want a desperate stretch of an argument for why you might want to take a team in this spot, I do think there's going to be carnage on Sunday. I really do. And it would be kind of cool to just sit and root for carnage on Sunday, but that's not enough of a reason to do it for me. What do you think?
My lean was the same as yours off the gate, sort of liking the 3.5 points with the Commanders. I won't go near it in terms of Survivor. I just think, to your points, future value and better options. But as I talk through this game with you in this moment, I do believe Micah Parsons, with one more week in that, right? He talked about the fact, you do me a great disservice. I got 4 days with my team before week 1 of the regular season. So I actually believe that defense could be really vicious this weekend. So I'm not going to be loading up on the Commanders plus 3.5. I lean that way. That's all I got on that game.
Same page. Nobody's interested for Survivor purposes. I would be shocked to see a high number on this game. Maybe one of the least selected games of the week. By the way, real quick, do you have any thoughts about Thursday games in general? I know some people are like, I just don't touch Thursday games because there's more uncertainty, etc. Do you have any qualms about taking a Thursday game if you like the spot?
I try to ignore Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night. If I like the game, that's what it is. It shouldn't always, sometimes there can be variables in terms of weather and things based on that primetime window or wanting to fade a guy in a big spot like Drake May, who looks like the moment's too big for him right now. But no, ultimately Thursday night, other than not having great information and some injury variables, I tend to want to pull the trigger if I have conviction.
Nice. I love it. All right. Let's do a little shout out to Survivor Sweat, one of our lovely sponsors here on this show. We love Survivor Sweats. If you're in Circa Survivor, you have to go to the marketplace at survivorsweat.com. You can shop for entries that other people have registered or sell a percentage of your entry. Get knocked out early and suffering from FOMO? Head over to survivorsweat.com today and see which entries are available for sale. Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. Yeah, see, Mike Jones is so quick on the trigger. I just want to let you all know where we were at. I'm going to pull it back to, hey, let's go. Let's go, baby. We're live. All right, we're fired up here. Tony, you all should see how fired up Tony and I are. We were dancing.
We were dancing. Look
at me. I'm
around and dancing.
Telling you. Fist bumping as the Survivor Sweat, ad reads. Let's go.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on here, we've got Cleveland, Baltimore. As I said, I think this is going to be the most selected game of the week.
Yep.
This is a little bit of a Joe Flacco revenge game against his old team that he won a Super Bowl with. I will remind you again of week 2 last season when the Ravens went down. Jason, you obviously watched that Bengals-Browns game closely. Were the Browns better than you thought?
Yes.
Or were the Bengals just bad?
Both, but it gives me, but it's a great way you phrase the question because the Browns performance did give me a little pause looking at the Ravens this weekend. I have 4 entries plus the joint entry with Tony. My brother said, no way we're putting all entries on the Ravens. My guess is I'll have half my entries on the Ravens just because they impressed me greatly despite losing that football game. And I also do believe that the Browns found a way to lose a football game that they should have won last week as well. I'm not going to let them off the hook there. So I'd be shocked if 2 of my 4 aren't on the Ravens. It's just hard to ignore. And also in a lot of my maps, believe it or not, I didn't see tremendous value for the Ravens. Like I was very willing in some of my maps to lose them early, if you will.
Yeah, I will just caution people against this. If you're going to take the Ravens, I think there's a lot of good reasons too. As I said, they're safe, but don't fall into the gambler's fallacy of they're not going to go 0-2. Right? That's like the martingale betting system at a blackjack table where you just keep doubling your money every time. They can absolutely lose this game. It's a division game. The Ravens, as I keep saying, were devastated in week 2 last year when nobody saw it coming. They can lose this game. So just don't think of it as a sure thing. And you bring up a point. I know that the rookie linebacker for the Browns, Pro Football Focus, said he had like the best game of any rookie all week. So there's a chance the Browns might be a little better than we all thought. So keep that in mind out there, folks.
I agree. And the Ravens, look, it wasn't a Monday night game, but a little bit of a short week coming back from Sunday night in Buffalo with a grueling game, a little pressure on them. I hear you. I just believe in the quarterback and the head coach a little too much to stay away.
Yeah, that very fair for sure. Next up, we've got Jaguars, Bengals. As I said earlier, I don't trust Zach Taylor early in the season. It's not just a week one problem. Bengals are going to be without Lucas Patrick. So the offensive line already looked bad. Now they're down guard Lucas Patrick. That's not good. A little thinner on the offensive line. I think the Jaguars are live for a win here, man. I'm not going to take the Jaguars in Circa Survivor. I did have a couple entries on them earlier last week. By the way, at some point, we should recap who exactly we were on. You did already. My bad. I'll do it real quick. I got through with the Jaguars, got through with the Broncos, and got through with the Cardinals. Those are my three biggest pieces over the weekend.
One thing I will say, the Jaguars definitely were a great selection in Survivor, but that game was weird, right? That weather, there was that game had a weather delay too. And I'm like, is that how we're going to get burned in Survivor? We're going to weather delay and then Carolina's going to come back like it's a different game. So I'm glad we didn't get burned after the weather delay there.
It's funny. So on my way to the sportsbook Sunday, I said to my girlfriend, I said, man, I wish the games were a little more spread out because most of the Survivor action was in the early window, and then it was pretty much just the Broncos in the late window. I wish one of these Survivor games could have been moved to the late window. And then look what happened. We had a weather delay, and I got my wish. The universe listened and provided. That's right. And then that game kind of sort of got pushed to the late window there. But going back to this Jaguars-Bengals game, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I don't really trust either of these defenses. I am bullish on the Jaguars. I would caution folks out there against taking the Bengals here. I think the Jaguars are absolutely live for a win.
Couldn't agree with you more. I also think there's some momentum for Liam Cohen getting a win in your first game. And I really don't like what I saw out of the Bengals' ability to protect Joe Burrow at all, So I think the Jaguars defense could look a little better. One thing I wanted to ask you, the Jaguars moved Tank Bigsby this week to the Eagles. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is.
And I just quickly, I know ETN looked absolutely electric, but that surprised me a little bit because I like that piece in the backfield.
Yeah, surprised me too. Bigsby had a good year last year. He looked good. I think, now I'm not in the friggin' organization or in the locker room, but the way that I read the tea leaves here is it is a sign of confidence in their rookies. They've got 2 rookie running backs, and they're saying, you know what? These guys have looked great. We can give up on Bigsby, get a little bit of a draft pick for him, and we're going to trust these guys behind him. And Bigsby didn't have a great week 1 game, but I don't think that was indicative of why he got traded. I think they just trust these rookies.
So clearly you like the Jaguars. I don't want to make an assumption here, but would you be considering them for a zig when others zag Survivor entry?
Can't do it. I mean, I used the Jags in a couple entries last week, so it's not even an option for it. But I think it's too early to be making a move like that. That's too ballsy. Love the Jaguars with the points, but not in Survivor.
I agree. Moving on. Giants at Dallas.
At Dallas. I like Dallas for Survivor pool purposes. I like that they've got extra rest. I think they're going to want to get a bad taste out of their mouth. Like, when you lose a game in the manner that they did, it's embarrassing. When you lose a game because you dropped passes, multiple passes in big-time situations, you've been humiliated on national television. And the people in that locker, they're men. Those are men in that locker room. And they're going to want to come out and get that taste out of their mouth and say, you know what? That's not who we are. We're the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to win this game. So I like them this week. Looking ahead, Dallas does have Carolina, Jets, and the Raiders on their schedule. They look like cupcake spots. Those games are all on the road. This one's at home for Dallas. They're on extra rest. In terms of a spot, this is arguably the best spot to use Dallas all season long. But Dallas is a Thanksgiving team. Dallas is a Christmas team. They're underdogs in those roles, but as anybody who's been playing Circa Survivor for a while can tell you, you don't just save one holiday team. You got to have some backups.
Yep.
Because if all of a sudden, knock on wood, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt next week and he's out for the year, Cowboys against Chiefs doesn't look so bad on Thanksgiving now, does it?
Exactly.
So you always want to keep those in your pocket. So Reason not to take the Cowboys is the holidays, even though they're dogs. Reason to take them spot-wise, it's a great spot.
Feel so lucky having gotten through on the Eagles last Thursday night. In terms of what you saw last Thursday from Dallas, did that change your opinion? I know we go week to week overall as you project them for this season. I saw a lot of good there.
I did too. I think what I was most impressed with was the offensive line. But it's a shame that Jalen Carter didn't play. Because if they played like that with Jalen Carter along the line,
that's a good point.
I'm really impressed with the Cowboys. So I almost feel like I wasn't able to get as much information as I wanted to because Carter wasn't playing. But even though he was out, I was impressed with that offensive line. I was impressed with Dak.
Yeah, I agree.
Very, very
he
impressed with
played
Dak.
great. And Jason Garrett, I think, made a comment about how great shape Dak Prescott was in. And it matters, right? Even just that little bit of mobility, a little bit less to your body for people to grab onto. He really looked trim, and it matters, right? All these injuries, right? He's got to be healthy. So I think they're an interesting team this weekend. What I will say, we talked about Russell Wilson earlier before the show. If Jackson Dart was getting the start, regardless of whether or not he's ready or not, that would give me pause on Dallas. But Russell Wilson on the other side, I hate to say it, but he just doesn't have it anymore. So I think that Dallas will be a consideration for me this week.
Do you get concerned? I mean, if Jackson Dart scares you, which is a fair statement considering how good he looked in the preseason, do you get concerned he comes in the third quarter? Like Russell Wilson is just looking so bad, and then all of a sudden in comes Jackson Dart in the third quarter, and then that takes you out in Survivor. That's a tough way to go out.
Yes, and to your point, there's going to be carnage this week. There's going to be. So where's it going to be? Too. And I'm not so sure that I'm going to be able to make it to the window on the Dallas Cowboys when it's all said and done.
Yeah, on the point of there being carnage this week, did you ever watch the Jackass videos, Johnny Knoxville?
Yeah.
You know, like he knows a kick to the balls is coming, and he's standing there, spread leg. And it's scored like a countdown 5, and he's just like, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. That's what week 2 feels like a little bit for me. I know it's coming. I don't know exactly which teams it's going to be, but I think there's going to be carnage, and I think it's going to hurt for a lot of people in week 2.
Well, I hear you. And to your point, right, about you made a point about like being able to live with yourself with whoever you pick, right? Like I think I could live with myself losing $5,000 on Lamar Jackson in week 2. As I sit here on Wednesday morning, you feel me? Okay, I could sleep if that's how I'm gonna go out, and I'm not gonna have them all there, but I could live with that.
Yep, and I would argue, and I said this last week about the Bengals. If the Bengals lose this week, I think that's a harder night's sleep because of their struggles early on in the season. For sure.
I slept so good Sunday night, Tone, after the Bengals won.
Oh, dude, I felt great Thursday after the Eagles got through. Feels great waking up the next morning knowing that you're still alive in Circa Survivor. That's a great feeling.
And, bro, like I'm sure a lot of these competitors share our sentiments. Everybody got lucky.
Yeah. Except the Colts, folks. I'm going to put those comments up again.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because, Tony, you made a bet.
Lucky.
You made a bet. See, this is what's so fun about this thing, right? You made a bet on the Dolphins to be the worst team in the NFL, right? I thought they were going to have a terrible year. I was bullish on the Colts. But as we start talking about the game, we start talking about the Dolphins secondary. I was like, and you lay off. Whereas I think that was a missed opportunity for me on the Colts because as the week got closer, I sort of backed off my gut feelings.
I feel you on that. We got a comment here from Randy. The carnage this year in week 2 can't possibly be as bad as last season when 5 of the 7 top picks were eliminated, right? Hey, Randy, find some wood, buddy. Find some wood to knock on because you never know in Circa Survivor. I'll tell you what, House, I had a little virtual exchange with House. He went back to 2015. The week 2, look that up. Look up the point spreads in week 2. I don't have it in front of me. It is insane 10 years ago. What happened? Absolutely insane. I want to say they went down to single digits that week, if I'm recalling correctly. And if House, if you happen to be watching, maybe you can share some of that info with us because that blew me away when you mentioned that.
All right. So if I'm a guessing man, I'm guessing you're not going to be on the Cowboys in Survivor. Maybe 1 or 2 entries, but I'm guessing no.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the Cowboys because of the spot, but I'm not going to put a bunch on them because of the holiday implications.
Gotcha. All right.
How about you? You got any interest in Dallas there?
Maybe 1, but I think ultimately, like I said, I just don't think I'm going to be able to make it to the window on Dak Prescott.
Yeah. I will say this. For people out there who are watching this, who are not in Circa Survivor and are in a traditional Survivor pool, I like the Cowboys a lot more. Put it that way. Without those holiday implications.
Yes. Yeah. See, it's exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does Westgate have holidays?
No holidays in Westgate.
Gotcha.
And of course, there are holidays in Grandissimo as well, for sure.
Yeah.
So we're probably going to show this slide about 40 times throughout the course of the season because it's so important. It's so absolutely.
It really is.
Right,
Go ahead.
Oh, so this is what I said. I said we have the best listeners. House comes through in 2015. 86% of pools, 86% of entries survived after week 1. After week 2, there were only 8% alive. This is pre-Circa Survivor. But holy crap, that is some serious week 2 carnage. Wow.
We got to go back and look. I got to go see what the spots are. Shout out House. Woo. Best storyteller I've ever met. All right. What do we got? Roltron, all the big favorites. Which one goes down? That's a good question.
It is.
So as I peek at the board.
Is it the Bills?
No. Well, we'll get to that game. I don't think. Oh, man. You know what? For me, I'm. Well, you know what? Let's get to the next game because I think that may be the spot. I think the Bears may beat the Lions.
Okay.
Gosh, Dan Campbell guaranteed a win, right? Something like that.
You're going to say this in the Lions jersey?
Shout out my guy, I think Mohammed, who got me this jersey, Jameer Gibbs. Shout out, he's from Detroit. But yeah, no, nice. I am because I've been even toward the end of last season. It's just not I just don't believe in Jared Goff. I really don't. I really was bullish on the Packers last week.
Yeah.
But this game, I don't know what to expect. I think Ben Johnson did look a little bit shaky in certain ways. You know what I mean? I think there was opportunities from even when they kicked the ball into the end zone, and toward the end of that game, there's 2:02 left, and O'Connell instructs his receiver to run out, kick that ball out of bounds. They get on the 40 versus 35. You still hold on the 2-minute warning. I also thought Ben Johnson at halftime, Laura Rutledge is interviewing him. He almost cuts her off. He's a little jumpy, reminded me of myself a little bit. I said, but I don't believe in Detroit, and I think the Bears have nothing to lose coming in, so I maybe lean toward the 5.5 points. Won't be touching it from a Survivor standpoint, but yeah, that may be my dog pick of the week to answer the mailbag question. Go ahead, Tom.
I like it. I asked you earlier about Thursday games because there are some traditionalists, if you will, out there who say, I will not touch Thursday games in Survivor. I will not touch road teams in Survivor. I will not touch division games in Survivor. For me, one of my tenets is coaching familiarity. Those are the games that scare me. And when you've got Ben Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator for the Lions last year, he knows what those receivers like to do and what they don't like to do. He knows their weaknesses. He certainly knows Jared Goff's weaknesses and what makes Jared Goff uncomfortable, doesn't he?
Yes, exactly.
These guys are having intimate football conversations about, hey, when it's third down, please don't call a play like this because blah, 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 blah. He knows Jared Goff. And that alone scares me from the Lions here in this spot. That alone. Then you've got the holiday implications with the Lions as well. They play the Packers on Thanksgiving. There's a lot of reasons here to be afraid of the Lions. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, and an early exit in the postseason last year. You now got Micah Parsons in the division. J.J. McCarthy, looked like Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota going to have this division. If I'm a Lions fan, I'm like, gosh, man, I've been a Detroit Lions fan. We look like we're really getting close to maybe the mountaintop. And I'll tell you right now, I don't believe in this couple-year window for this team. There are a lot of people that I think were very bullish on the Lions coming into the season. I was not one of them. Doesn't look like a great Survivor spot for me, but yeah, the Bears, my brother and I do have one entry in the Millions contest. We went 2 and 3, whatever. I don't like that contest as much as I like Survivor, but the Bears may get some love on that entry.
With the points, yeah, that makes some sense to me. And Bob points out, he says, one of these teams is going to be 0-2. It's going to be a fun game to watch because that's a tough hole as an NFL team, with division loss or 2 in there as well. That's pretty rough. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm looking forward to that one. What do we got next?
Moving on, Mike Jones.
We got, it's your New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins, who looked absolutely putrid last week.
Bro. So this is a Survivor show, and I feel like I want to talk to my friend Tony about the Patriots for an hour. So I'll be as brief as I can be. but it couldn't have looked worse from a Patriots standpoint. I guess because we're short on time, my one takeaway was I don't think Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels got Drake May operating in a confident place, right? Juxtaposed to Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown getting J.J. McCarthy to believe in himself after throwing a pick six when everything was against him. Drake May looked more confident to me last year. So as bullish as I am on Mike Vrabel and everything the Patriots are doing, I'm a broken record talking about them being a year away. I don't know what to expect. I won't touch this game from a Survivor standpoint. In terms of betting on it, I don't believe in the Miami Dolphins, so maybe I lean Patriots, but hands up on this one.
I think this one's going to be fascinating from a Survivor standpoint. I will not be on either side of this game, but there will be people on the Dolphins. There will be people on the Patriots. Mark my word.
Yep. All right.
Real quick, we call week 2 an overreaction week. And if you believe this whole tenet that you shouldn't overreact to week 1, the Dolphins are in a decent spot here. They're at home in the heat where the Patriots have historically struggled to play. And theoretically, when you get your ass beat week 1, you tend to be a little more focused week 2. There's your argument for the Dolphins. Your argument against the Dolphins is that this may not have just been a week 1 problem. We saw all offseason long, preseason, joint practices, the Dolphins didn't have their shit together.
Yep.
And I'm finding it a little hard to believe they're going to get their stuff together real quick for week 2. So I lean Patriots here, but I can't trust it for Survivor because the Dolphins come out and look like really good offense like we know they are capable of. It wouldn't totally shock me either.
And for those of us New Englanders that were supremely optimistic about this season, gosh, that was a really difficult pill to swallow on Sunday.
Two more quick notes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, 2 more quick notes about this game. 39% chance of rain. It's early in the week, but keep an eye on that. We could have weather implications there. And then going into the season, the weaknesses for the Dolphins were their offensive line and their cornerbacks. Well, they had injuries along the offensive line and at cornerback last week. Offensive lineman James Daniels goes down, Austin Jackson goes down, and Storm Duck, great NFL name, by the way, Storm Duck, cornerback, hurts his ankle. So really some concerns with depth with this Miami team now. Moving on, or did you have something to say too?
No, I wanted to move on to your San Francisco 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to be led by Mac Jones.
Yeah, and the 49ers just signed Kendrick Bourne, too. So it could be a Mac Jones, Kendrick Bourne show. A couple of New England Patriots. Point spread's down to 4 now. George Kittle's out. Brock Purdy might be out, as we've alluded to. At least the 49ers have fixed their kicker situation. They bring in Pinheiro. They get rid of Jake Moody. That makes me feel a little bit better. Jennings is hurt. You're going to want to keep an eye on him in practice. But the 49ers are an interesting linchpin from a Survivor standpoint because if Purdy's out, it almost makes me want to take the 49ers more because people are going to be scared off the 49ers, and it's an opportunity to zig while others zag with a depressed 49ers percentage. And you're getting a good playoff team, granted hurt, against arguably the worst team in the NFL. So it sounds weird, but in a way, I'm more likely to be on the Niners if Purdy's out from a Survivor.
So interesting. I love that take as much as I hate Mac Jones as a football player. But Kyle Shanahan liked him very much. There were rumblings that maybe he was going to select him in that draft back in the days with the 3rd overall pick. So I think that marriage may work. You opened up my ears a little bit, but what I will tell you, like Mac Jones, he's just, I don't like anything about his game. When things don't go well, I don't like his mobility, but small sample size, he can win a football game in this league. You can be sure.
Indeed. All right, Bills Jets. I think this could be the upset of the week. Of course, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills destroyed the Jets. But we got a division matchup here in New York, on the road for the Bills. Pro Football Focus was very kind to the Jets over the weekend, said they had one of the best offensive performances of the week against a really, really good Steelers defense.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, that Steelers defense is better than this Bills defense. I promise you that. And if the Jets look that good against the Steelers, the Bills could be in trouble here in this game. They're coming off of an emotional win. Ton of future value for the Bills. I'm a little concerned about the Jets, and the Bills have future value. That makes me not want to put more than an entry or two on Buffalo. What do you think?
I took the words out of my mouth. Way too much future value with Buffalo, but I absolutely love Buffalo here. I think the Jets, I think that was one of those games where the result really might have been the juice they needed, right? It wouldn't shock me to see them play more like the Jets we're used to next week. I saw a lot of good things there, but I just think Buffalo's too much riding that momentum off that game. I just like them to not give it back here in week 2. But I don't think based on the future value, I'll be going near them, if I'm being honest with you.
Fantastic. All right, next up, Seattle at Pittsburgh. We just referenced those Steelers winning on a 60-yard field goal. Well, by the way, week 1 was such a sweat that you and I just recapped a bunch of week 1 games. And, oh, yeah, we forgot the Steelers' 60-yard field goal sweat.
I like Pittsburgh here. Your thoughts?
The Steelers have one of the best special teams coaches in the NFL, Danny Smith.
Returning.
Hey, Tony, what are you doing talking about special teams on a Survivor show?
For the lead, sweeps the leg, 60-yarder. He's got it.
Well, in a game that's lined at 3-point spread,
Pittsburgh goes in front with 1:03 on the clock.
The Jets are expected to be one of the worst special teams units in the league. And that matters, right?
I wish it had mattered in the millions contest where I was on the Steelers -3. But, Tony, I have been waiting to talk to you about this game for 3 days because I absolutely love the Steelers. This is one of those spots for me where I believe the momentum from the Steelers win in week 1 will help them take care of business at home. And the Seahawks coming cross country after losing a game maybe they should have won against San Francisco. I love Pittsburgh here. I'm trying to convince my brother to put one of our entries on the Steelers here because I just really believe in this team, especially they're down 9 in that game. Right? It looked like many spots where the Jets were going to win that football game and they didn't. So I love Pittsburgh here. Dying to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the Steelers. Probably won't have an entry on them, but I might. Mike Macdonald knows this Steelers team. The Steelers know the Mike Macdonald defense. Remember, he was the Ravens defensive coordinator. So Mike Tomlin knows what he's going to try to do. But Mike Macdonald doesn't have the pieces that he had in Baltimore. So they're getting like a poor man's version of that really good Ravens defense from a couple of years ago. A couple injuries to be aware of. Joey Porter got injured last week. That's big for the Steelers secondary. They did get Jabril Peppers at the safety position. They had a safety go down. Your guy from New England, who I think still has a lot of gas left in the tank.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
I'm intrigued by the Steelers here in this spot. For the reasons that you mentioned, love that it's at home. I'm not in love with the Seattle team. Hey, Seattle, you couldn't take advantage of the 49ers while you were at home. They were down Brandon Ayuk. They were down George Kittle. Trent Williams was in and out of that game. They were down Jawan Jennings. And someone named Jake Tonjes caught the game-winning touchdown against you. That's kind of pathetic. Good luck next week against this Steelers defense. I could see an argument here for the Steelers, and what it accomplishes, Jason, from a Survivor standpoint, is it gets you on a little bit of an island because there won't be a lot of other people on the Steelers. And a couple people got by with the Steelers last week, too. I forget what their percentage was, but maybe 4 or 5% or something like that. So, yeah, I like Pittsburgh.
As we talk about what the great Tony Farmer will disclose in terms of Survivor as the year goes on, right? This feels like a little bit of a spot where, all right, it's week 2. As we go on, we're not going to talk about as much, but that this was maybe a spot where, you know, maybe Tony and I both like the Steelers, but maybe I feel Tony pulling back slightly. Maybe he likes the Steelers more. He's like, not, and you see a little smile there. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but let me ask you, Tony, you were considering, forgive me if you said this earlier, but you were considering the Steelers last week.
Yep.
Did you have any entries?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple on them. Well, so I sweated that one out, that 60-yard field goal. The argument that I made on the show about special teams being the difference, and I have faith in Rodgers. I really do. Not to return to Pro Bowl form, but I had faith in him. And the other thing about that game, Jason, is you just knew that the Steelers knew Justin Fields' weakness. They knew Justin Fields' weakness because they benched him. Mike Tomlin benched him after a 4-2 start, I believe.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, they saved it to the fourth quarter. You started seeing some pretty gnarly blitzes that you didn't see early in that game. And it was like the Steelers were saving that weakness for the right time. And that was coaching in that game. That was a big coaching mismatch like we talked about.
Yep. We are live from Stadium Swim at Circa Sports. Tony Farmer, Jason Anik at Last Men Pod, the Last Men Standing podcast. Appreciate you being with us, talking all things NFL, Survivor, etc. All right. Rams at Tennessee. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on the Rams here, Tony. Tennessee's defense did enough to give me pause in week 1. I do like the Rams. I'm not a guy that makes too much in terms of these West Coast teams traveling to the East Coast. The Rams, I believe there's some future value implications for me where I think there's some great spots to use the Rams later in the season. So for me, I'm not too interested in them in this spot, despite liking them to win the football game.
For me, the biggest thing to keep an eye on is the Rams' offensive line. Dotson and Avila, 2 of their interior offensive linemen, they're considered week to week. Good chance they're both out. I worry about cluster injuries. That's something to keep an eye on for survivor purposes. If those guys are out, I want nothing to do with the Rams, even against the Titans. Tennessee is going to be at home in this spot. By the way, R.J. Harvey, 6 carries, 70 yards in that Titans game last week. So I wonder about their rush defense. I think their rush defense got exposed a little bit by the Broncos. I will say this. Who was the Titans' leading receiver last week? Tony Pollard with 29 receiving yards. He was also their leading rusher with 3.3 yards a carry. That Titans offense, granted, against a very good Broncos defense, that Titans offense doesn't give me a lot to get excited about. But I agree with you. I think the Rams are going to be popular. I might be on them if one of those 2 offensive linemen, Dotson or Avila, are playing. But without both of them, I want nothing to do with the Rams.
I love it. All right, we're going to move on to the 4 o'clock games. 1 o'clock out here in the Pacific time zone. But first, we got to talk to you about Race Oracle, our tremendous sponsor. We appreciate them. Mike Jones, drop it for us.
Attention racing fans. If you want an edge at the track, you need Race Oracle. This subscription service uses advanced AI modeling built on over 200,000 historical races, crunching hundreds of data points from weather and track conditions to jockey history and speed ratings. Race Oracle gives you proprietary win percentages, Kelly betting strategies, and live odds tracking, covering every race in North America plus the UK and Ireland, so you can bet around the clock with confidence. Don't guess, predict smarter. Subscribe today and start betting with data, not luck.
Appreciate everybody over at Race Oracle, and it's a website that I've used. It's gotten me back into the horse racing game, despite normally being a sports bettor. But back in the day, I used to bet a lot of horses, and they have a system where they control my bankroll for me, which is all I need. So appreciate everyone over at Race Oracle.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we go on to these 4 o'clock games, if you're watching the show and you're enjoying it, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a follow at Last Men Pod over on Twitter. Comment on YouTube. That helps the algorithm, helps us get this show out there, helps get more people interested in Circa Survivor. We just passed 1,000 followers on Twitter. We've been on Twitter for like 5 months, so that feels really good too. Love watching this community grow. Please give us a thumbs up and a like. It means a lot. Or subscribe on Spotify for people that are watching on there as well.
Love it.
Good stuff. All right, we got Cardinals, Panthers. I think this one has massive Survivor implications, Jason, for week 2.
For those of us that didn't use the Cardinals in Survivor last week, this was part of the onus for that. I definitely had them. I looked at them in week 2 in a lot of spots, and the Carolina Panthers didn't do anything to take me off of that train. I'll certainly consider Arizona in this spot strongly for one of my entries.
Yeah, good team to consider. Couple injuries to be aware of. Last week, the Panthers were without Aquanu. He had appendicitis, and he didn't play last week. I'm really curious to see if he's going to play this week. He's their left tackle. He's very important. And then pass rusher Zaven Collins for the Cardinals. 2 massive pieces. As I said on last week's show, saving the Cardinals for at home against the Titans in week 5 is a very, very important piece, in my opinion, of the Survivor Grid puzzle. So that is the biggest reason not to use the Cardinals. Not because I don't think the Cardinals are going to beat the Panthers. I think they can absolutely beat the Panthers. But I like the idea of saving the Cardinals for week 5 because it opens up some other possibilities, gives me a little flexibility in the grid. So I like the Cardinals. I won't be going overboard with them this week. Broncos, Colts, the Peyton Manning Bowl.
Can I just ask you one quick question about the Cardinals? You have Jonathan Gannon 25-1 to win Coach of the Year. Is that accurate?
Yep.
You couldn't get that number today. I really feel like they're going to go 2-0. I know how excited you are about that team. Your point's well taken about week 5. Go ahead.
Broncos, Colts, the Peyton Manning Bowl. We said it's overreaction week. Are you going to overreact and say the Colts are really damn good? Daniel Jones is the sure thing. Maybe we should be worried about the Broncos. I threw out there maybe we should be a little worried about Bo Nix, but keep in mind the whole overreaction factor going into this game. Evan Ingram injured. Twitter doctors are telling me that this could be a multi-week injury. Take that for what it's worth. I'm curious if Dre Greenlaw is going to play here for the Broncos in this spot. Charvarius Ward is in concussion protocol. He's the cornerback for the Colts. That's something to be aware of. I just want to throw this out there. I don't want to scare anybody off the Broncos if they happen to be thinking about the Broncos here in this spot. I don't believe in the Colts, but do I know that Daniel Jones isn't this year's Sam Darnold? Do I know that the Colts aren't a turnaround team? They weren't bad last year. They just missed the playoffs last year. And believe me, I know because I went down with them in week 17 when they were fighting for a playoff spot against the Giants, who should have been tanking. So the Colts come into this season. I think they're improved from last year. They were almost a playoff team last year. Maybe the Colts could be a turnaround team, and that can scare you off the Broncos here in this spot. What do you think, Jay?
I agree with you. You know me well enough to know I liked Daniel Jones more than most. And gosh, it must be so nice for him not to be behind that New York Giants offensive line again. So I think there's some potential there. I wouldn't touch it in terms of Survivor, but I think the Broncos show us really who they are in week 2 here. So I do like the Broncos quite a bit here. I think the Colts maybe regress a little bit, but that's just a lean in the game. I wouldn't touch it in Survivor.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there. Thanks for the shout out, man. I love hearing from you guys. Next up, not a great Survivor pool game, but fascinating NFL game. We got Eagles at Chiefs. Are the Chiefs going to go 0-2? If the Chiefs go 0-2, the Super Bowl hangover narrative is just going to grow for sure. I have zero interest in this because of the future value for both of these teams. Massive future value, holiday value, and it's really a coin flip game. It's a 1-point game, so I want nothing to do with this one. You disagree, Jason?
No, I agree completely, but I feel as though last season you always had a really good feel for the Chiefs. So in terms of this game, just forget handicap. Who do you like if I'm forced to throw you on a spot like that?
Yeah, I'm probably not going to bet it either, but
I
would lean Eagles here in this one. I would lean Eagles just because I do think that Super Bowl hangover narrative is real. That's a real thing. You're putting extra plays on tape from the year before. They were pretty dejected. They got their asses beat. Now, you could make the argument that because they got their asses beat, like I said earlier about CeeDee Lamb dropping passes, he's going to want to come out and after being humiliated. That argument is there. I lean Eagles. It's a very light lean with not a lot of.
Yeah, and I feel like the Eagles sort of really didn't play a good football game. Sometimes I like teams that bounce back. Like, hey, boys, you play like you did against Dallas, you're going to get smoked by the team you smoked in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. They should be motivated. We got 2 Monday night football games this week. 2 of them. By the way, why does the NFL do this? And why do they do it in week 2? Did I miss it?
Wait a minute. I think Sunday night, Falcons-Vikings.
Oh, good call. Yes, Sunday night, Falcons-Vikings. There's going to be conspiracy theorists out there who think that I tried to skip this game because I didn't want to talk about it and didn't want to show my hand. You're on that train. You're on that.
Yes, I'm driving it.
Thanks for that catch, by the way. Vikings 4.5-point favorites. Vikings are on a short week because they played on Monday. The Falcons deserve to win that game, Jason, against Tampa. By the way, Koo missing that kick. He's not a bad kicker. Indoors, right? I didn't see that one coming, man.
Do you think the heart rate goes up a little bit in that spot? Like it, because it wasn't a bad hold, right? It's like just a little yip.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe early season rust. I don't know how to explain it, but that was a tough loss if you're a Falcons fan. That was brutal. I tend to like the team that's 0-1 in week 2 going against the team that's 1-0. That's just a little nugget. Not a blanket rule, but I tend to kind of lean toward those teams. I think the Falcons can be feisty here against the Vikings. What are your thoughts on the Vikings, though? Did you walk away from that game impressed? Because the first half, they looked terrible.
My thoughts are, I think J.J. McCarthy got an entire season of growth in one game. And I could go on and on about the Kevin O'Connell very well, I think is probably the best head coach in the NFL. And the fact that Josh McCown is there also, I think is huge. And I think that J.J. McCarthy having a full year to just immerse himself in this and to just be attached at the hip to Kevin O'Connell all the time. Not, you don't have to play. You just be with me all the time. I think that some of that manifested itself. I think he gets in the huddle after the pick 6 and he's like, who has it better than us? Or something like that, right? Like, I just think he has so much juice. And Justin Jefferson is a tremendous leader. His body language and his energy when things aren't going well is outstanding. So I really believe in the Vikings. And gosh, I mean, it went from being J.J. McCarthy's a disaster to be like he has it. It's crazy, the flip of that game. So I believe in the Vikings, but to your point, I think the Falcons can make it tough here. Maybe I like the points a little bit, not a survivor play for me.
Yeah, by the way, that Vikings-Bears game, I know we're a Survivor show, not necessarily a general sports betting show, but that was a live bettor's dream, that show, because the Bears go into that game down 2 cornerbacks, including Jalen Johnson, who's a stud, and they lose another cornerback in that game. Vikings have all the momentum in the world, and you're like, oh, Justin Jefferson versus a secondary that's down 3 cornerbacks. That was a great spot there.
And what I will say to the gamblers out there, anyone that has the opportunity to bet this league live, do it. I can't tell you how often my brother and I are talking about a game, and we're like, you know what, just bet it live. Watch a few minutes and see, and injuries, whatever it is, but you can get a flow. You can be sure. I was all over the Raiders live as I watched the Patriots look much more like the Gerard Mayo-led team of a previous year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Monday night, we got Bucks at Texans. Again, the Bucks, a lot of people would say they got lucky in that game against the Falcons, didn't deserve to win. Texans lose, a tough one there to the Rams. They were in it very much so until the fourth quarter. I was expecting a little more fight from the Texans, to be completely honest. I lost the money line bet on them against the Rams. What's your take on this one, Jason?
That's interesting. I was on the Texans as well. I like Houston really for the reason you alluded to when talking about the last game, going with the 0-1 team at home, the team that's 1-0. I think Tampa Bay is very interesting. And Emeka Ibuka, wow. I mean, Chris Godwin not there, but look who you got. I mean, so I think I do like this Tampa Bay team, and I'm warming on Baker Mayfield a little bit. So I'm pretty bullish on the Buccaneers as the season goes along, but I like the Texans in this spot. Perhaps it'll be a consideration for me in the Millions contest, not in Survivor.
It would be an interesting Survivor Island because it'll be extremely low ownership, less than 1%. Pretty desperate Texans team doesn't want to start the season 0-2. Who does? You bring up that rookie receiver. What about when Chris Godwin gets back? And you've got Godwin, Evans, and him. That offense is going to be pretty tough to stop. But
Bucky Irving. I mean,
yeah. He was disappointing in week 1, but he's gonna get going, no doubt about that. So Texans an interesting island spot for sure. Worth considering. Worth at least thinking about.
Yep.
Last game here, Chargers Raiders. As I said at the top of the show, these were the 2 biggest upsets of the week. There weren't many, but these teams both won as underdogs last week. Now they're playing each other. I say to you, Jason, what was more impressive? The Chargers win against the Chiefs or the Raiders win against the Patriots? And I got to go with the Chargers for me.
100%. And honestly, Tony, you were very bullish in all of our conversations about the Chargers. I was on them on the money line and the point. I loved the Chargers against the Chiefs. And I'm giving you a lot of the credit because I just felt as though you thought that Super Bowl hangover was real. You really believed in what the Chargers were doing. And I will say, like Ladd McConkey, someone referred to him as a superstar. That's my nightmare as a Patriot. The Patriots traded out of that spot and the Chargers drafted him. But I believe he's really a difference maker. And I like Jim Harbaugh's leadership. I think the Raiders are going to fall flat. I like the Chargers, not necessarily from a Survivor standpoint, but the Raiders beat a Patriots team that really had a bad day.
Yeah, I bet the Chargers money line already this week. I like them to win the game. A couple injuries to be aware of. Denzel Perryman, Chargers linebacker, he's definitely going to be out. And then Landon Roberts, the Raiders linebacker, might be out. That is a huge name to keep an eye on because the Chargers' identity is their running game, their rushing attack. That's what they like to do. And Landon Roberts is arguably the best, one of the top 5 at least, run-stuffing linebackers in the league. So him being out, combined with the fact that Chargers are going to run it down your throat, that would be a reason for me to potentially consider the Chargers here in this spot. But do you feel good on the road in a divisional matchup? This is a game, I would say, Jason, we talk about games you can't live with yourself. If you go out on Circa Survivor with the Chargers on Monday Night Football, you're like, oh, my God, I had a 12-point favorite with the Ravens. Why the hell didn't I take that?
Exactly. But a little extra time to prepare. I'm glad you bet on the Chargers money line. I'd be shocked if they don't find a way to win this, because I think if the Chargers, I understand they've made the postseason and but they're still a little bit above average to me. And if they want to be better than above average and be great, this is one you got to get. And I think they do.
Yeah. And I'll say this, Chargers don't have a ton of future value moving forward. That was, they play the Colts later this season. We'll see how that goes. But we've gone through all the week 2 games. Jason doesn't know. I have a little surprise here in my bag. Jason and I used to work together on another podcast. And one of the things that I would always get shit about from folks on this podcast was my snacks. So I don't know how adventurous of an eater you are, Jason. Have you ever eaten seaweed before?
Oh, yes, bro. You are talking my language. I
You've
can't believe
eaten
you got it in. They took my gum. They took my water. How'd you get it in the building? Bro, what flavor we got there?
This is avocado oil seaweed.
So I love it. So I'm well aware of this. I love we got the seaweed snacks here. So my daughters eat this, right? I'm a healthy guy too, Tone. My wife has been eating the teriyaki flavor recently, but I'm all about Tone. I love it. I love it. And you're not vegan necessarily. Tony will eat a good steak, but
I love vegan food, but I like meat too. Yeah.
So, and I will tell you a story, right? We're on it. So my daughter in 3rd grade had a teacher that used to eat these, right? And apparently she used to eat them like this. Like in front of my daughter. Anyway, that's actually really terrific. I haven't had the avocado oil one yet, but good stuff, Tone. And by the way, before we get out of here, 2 more things. We got to talk about our joint entry, Champ.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But that'll be the end. But I just want, for those of you that don't know, Tony's stepfather came out here last week. And he had never been in Vegas before. I don't even need to set you up. Just tell me about how the last few days were out here with your stepfather.
Yeah. First time at Circa, first time at Vegas, first time watching football on the West Coast with the 10 a.m. time zone. So we had a phenomenal time. We sat in the recliners at Circa on Thursday night to watch the Thursday night game, actually all day. Had food delivered to us, waitresses coming by, making us feel like kings, checking in on us every 10 minutes, eating barbecue, eating ribs, eating brisket while we're watching the Thursday night game. We both had entries get through, Circa Survivor entries get through on the Eagles, so Thursday was a great start. It was a lot of fun. And the look on his face when he first saw those screens at Circa, he's seen the Quest for 14.2 million, the documentary, and you see these things on camera, but then to walk into Circa for the first time, I'll never forget that look on his face. Just the grin, the smile. And we stayed at Circa Thursday and Friday night. This is my playground for the next 48 hours. It was awesome. Really, really special moment.
Dude, and like when I'm at Tony's in Austin, Texas, now he's got boots on the ground. Tony's out in Vegas now. I love it. I'm trying to get out here as much as I can. So let's talk about this joint entry, Tone.
Yeah.
We're on the Eagles last week. We get through, survive, and advance. What are you thinking week 2?
I'm thinking I want to keep this entry alive as long as possible. I have some somewhat risky plays for this week that I'm interested in, and I'm not interested in those risky plays for this entry. So I would say, Jason, the move would be the Ravens, that big point spread. Let's keep this thing alive. And then after a few weeks, maybe we start taking a little more chances. But it's still early. Let's keep this thing alive with the Ravens. What do you think, man?
I couldn't agree more. I can live with myself if Lamar Jackson goes to 0-2 by losing at home to 42-year-old Joe Flacco or whatever it is. So, yeah, I agree. Ravens will be our selection in the joint entry, and hopefully we will survive and advance to week 3.
Fantastic. And then keep an eye on the Survivor Sweat Marketplace later in the season. Our goal is for some of our listeners to buy this entry, and then we'll all win together, hopefully, at the end of the season. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week for week 3.
Let's go!